Come on in. Hey, and let me take your coats. Oh, is it gone cold in here, or is it me?
Make up with him, you big girl's blouse.
You're not allowed to say that these days.
Well, you're not, but I am.
Oh, come on, you two. How long have you been friends?
Go on then, shake hands.
That's it. Come on. Make friends, never break friends.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 348 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that keeps having flash forwards about saying this intro as I'm saying this intro, and I totally knew I was going to say that. I'm Gavin.
And I've got a lovely new cardigan.
Yeah, you do. It's complicated.
It's cozy. And it's got
It looks very, very cosy.
and it's got a horse on it.
But it also looks like the end of every Western. You've got a horse on one panel and you've got
A sunset,
a sunset
on the other. Yes. This is my second horse sweater. I have two horse sweaters now. The other one's not really a cardigan. It's more like the dude sweater. I've got two the dude sweaters,
Yeah.
which are also cozy, but not as soft as this. I love my dude sweaters.
And it's also got an Ennio Morricone soundtrack playing over it as we speak.
Yes, I love to wear my dude sweaters while I admire the rug in the living room, which really brings the room together.
Excellent. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm all right. It's been very stressful at work lately.
Oh.
We've been desperately trying to finish our latest auction, and we were a man down while trying to do that because poor Mallory was out.
Oh,
With
no.
family issues.
I'm sure poor Mallory maybe doesn't want her family issues aired on this podcast.
Right, which is why I'm being vague.
Excellent.
Yes.
But naming them nonetheless.
No, they did not name them. I just said issues.
Mallory?
She doesn't listen to this podcast.
Well, you keep on telling her about it.
No, I don't.
Wasn't there somebody at your work that listened to this? Or watched Coronation
Sharon
Street?
used to watch Coronation Street,
Oh, okay.
yes. But that's Sharon. That's not Mallory.
Okay, that's where the risk exists.
Yes. We cannot mention any issues
And now we've
with
just
Sharon.
mentioned it. Yeah. I'll beep her name out. No. I'll beep everybody's name out.
Anyway, so, that's just left Clint and I to finish this auction, and it's been very, very stressful. We needed to get to 500 lots by the end of the day today. We got to 480. So it's just going to have to be a 480 lot auction, which is fine. And then next week, on Friday, I have a colonoscopy, and then on Saturday, I have to work an auction pickup.
Let's say we might not have a viable podcast next Friday.
I will.
We'll have to wait and see. But every time we say that, we usually end
I
up
should
doing
be
it.
fine. The colonoscopy is very early in the morning. So we get home, I eat, I sleep for a couple hours, and then I'm fine.
We'll see. This could be fun next week, so set your alarms and tune in,
Regardless,
folks.
I shall be very clean.
Both inside and out.
Yes.
Your mouth, however, will be filthy as fuck as usual. All right.
How are you this week?
Let's not talk about it.
Oh, no.
Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Let's, what did I say?
Let's have...
Give me some of that forgetful Corrie news, apparently.
Catherine Apanowitz, who appeared on Coronation Street, EastEnders, and Emmerdale, has died after a long illness. She was 64 years old. Rebecca Atkinson, who plays Mandy on the show and is a fine girl, has proven what a good wife she would be by marrying Shameless star Ben Bratt, becoming his life, his love, and his lady. Condolences to the sea.
And she came and she brought him a turkey.
Yeah, it wasn't as funny when I tried to do the actual song Mandy as opposed to Brandy.
Meh.
Brandy works better. Apparently, she was on Shameless as well.
She was. That's,
Yeah.
That's how most people
That's
will
how most
remember
people know
Yeah.
her. She wore a lot fewer clothing when she was on Shameless than on Coronation Street.
Oh. Mental note.
Yes. Okay. The UK Shameless, I feel like I have to say because we are in America now and not the American Shameless. And finally, looks like Eileen's favorite son is finally returning to the cobbles as Ryan Thomas confirms he's back, bitches, but only for a limited time as he's also got a hosting gig for a new game show, 99 to Beat, with brother Adam Thomas. This show is being called, what's that show with the guy
Pointless.
who's really smart at the top? What's his name?
The Chase.
Yes. This game show is being called
Just for our listeners, to get the full experience here, Helen was miming The Chase by moving her hand up and down.
because the guy, the beast is at the top, looking
I
down
get
on
that.
people.
Yeah, I get that now. But what I initially thought you were doing was the pointless column descending. It's a descending tone.
Boom. Yes.
Yeah. that as
Anyway,
well.
this show is being called The Chase Meets Squid Games. So
We're killing people.
I don't know. I hope not.
Finally, some real stakes.
Yes. Jason Grimshaw will be murdering people live on television.
I wonder what life-ending illness he'll have when he returns to the street. Diphtheria, perhaps. That's my favourite.
Well,
That's my favourite disease.
remember he broke his back, and that's why Eileen had to go to Thailand.
Right.
It was a broken back, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. So he'll be walking gingerly back onto the cobbles.
He may have a cane.
Let's all be immensely surprised if they remember to do that.
And that's Corrie News.
That is news, somewhat tangentially about Coronation Street, but news
Shut up.
nonetheless. But it always, no matter what, leads us seamlessly into the safe harbour, the feedback section that I like to call Everyone's a Critic. Oh, do we have feedback this week?
Oh my goodness.
Do we?
I don't know.
Yeah, we do.
I'm assuming yes.
We'll start with Debbie, who says, "Hey, I'm Canadian, and I have never stopped listening to your fantastical, awesomest podcast.
Aw.
I may or may not have made those words up. Congratulations on another great show. This was talked about last week. Thank you so much, Debbie.
We love Canada. Please take us.
Just so you know, Canada, we're all making plans at the moment. We all have plans.
Our plan is just, to drive up to the UP and wait for you to take that part of the territory back.
We'll wink when it's safe to do so. Wink. Then Stephen writes, Jenny wanting to con Daniel and faking the paternity of Daisy's baby is giving possessed by the ghost of Uncle Stephen vibes. As evil as Ray Weinstein was, remember that at least he wasn't racist. And on the subject of villains, Giglet Jeff was a great singer with his, quote, very Catholic taste in music. Remember his very Catholic taste?
No.
I remember that. I remember that
I do
phrase.
know that he is a good singer, though. And also, as seen on Wonka, a very good dancer.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Timmy Chalamet did not get an Oscar nomination for Wonka.
Yeah, neither did Giglet Jeff, unfortunately. But we were the only people that were sitting watching that in the movie thinking, oh, it's Tim's dad!
Yes, I'm the only person in the theater who booed.
Stop booing Tim's dad. Tara writes, I love that Ken was the one that found Cassie out and took charge of that situation, even if it didn't end too well for him. Cassie got off easy, only getting arrested. Tracy has, quite literally, murdered for less. As much as I roll my eyes at Kevin treating another man fixing his cupboard, but not like that, as a threat to his fragile masculinity, I do think it suits his character. I mean, this is a guy who told Abi that she had sunk to a new low. Our Kev's one step above Neanderthal, and always has been. Hopefully the storyline will be an opportunity for some emotional growth for him. Well, let's talk about that, albeit somewhat briefly, this week, I feel that he has to fall before he can rise again.
Right.
Again? Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
I do agree that it's in keeping with the character, but what I was enjoying about it was that the character had seemingly developed into something better than that.
Yes, albeit briefly.
Very briefly.
Ugh, I wanted to shoot him this week, but we'll get to that.
We will. Fiona writes, this week's Everyone's a Critic made me sad.
Why?
Not only do I love hearing about your weeks and what you're drinking and what's up for auction, I do not appreciate anyone dissing our dear high-pitched Helen. That's you, that is.
Am I really that high-pitched all the
Can't-
time?
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
No, it's my voice on Boring Moment of the Week, so it can't be that high.
That, remember, has gone through several filters. I do hope Helen finds it funny and doesn't take it to heart, because
Yeah.
I love her vibrancy and enthusiasm.
Aw.
But I also know the feeling of being a bit much. On another note, I do have a tip on how to cope with how grim Corrie is. What I do is, I don't watch it, and instead I listen to a shrill lady and a gruff Scot describe it with added-in jokes and innuendo. Much better. I'm not sure how this will work out for the two of you, though. Thank you ever so much, Fiona. That
Yes.
brought a smile to our faces.
We watch, so you don't have to.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, criticism of that nature, I don't think really affects either of us
No, it makes
at all.
me laugh more than anything.
We've all...
And also, as I pointed out to you when that criticism came in, quite frankly, I'm shocked that it doesn't happen more often.
That's the
Because,
spirit.
you know, I am a woman on the internet
There you
and
go.
in a podcast. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Aria writes, I don't know. Thanks, Aria. Aria's
Arya wrote, I don't know.
IDK, which I think is how the kids are saying it these days. Aria was commenting on the Skeleton in My Knickers episode from June the 9th, 2023, for some reason. But thank you anyway, Aria, when you listen to this 2.5 years from now or whatever. Now,
She should meet that other guy. The guy.
Gary.
Gary,
I haven't
yes.
heard from Gary for a couple of weeks.
Gary, where are you? I
Now,
hope we haven't hurt his feelings.
now, I don't imagine so.
You never know.
We weren't the one that wrote in with like one word, or no, there was no content to the correspondence. It was a blank email.
Right, but then the next one had words.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
Anyway.
I'm preparing my blushing cheeks for this next missive,
Uh-oh.
which comes from Kat. Kat writes, I read your blog post last week for the first time. Honestly, I don't really care for fan blogs. They're so cringy. But I was very pleasantly surprised. This is a well-written, engaging and very funny review that perfectly balances sharp critique with genuine appreciation for Coronation Street. Your dry humour, particularly when listing the endless medical traumas plaguing the characters, adds to the sense that Corrie has lost some of its variety and heart. However, you also give credit where it's due, praising Bill Roach's performance and the effectiveness of certain scenes, and that's the sign of a reviewer who isn't just looking to bash the show, but genuinely wants to make it better.
Yes.
If your goal was to avoid writing yet another negative blog, you succeeded in making your critique feel fresh and entertaining, rather than just another rant.
Yes. Very nice.
Am I blushing?
Not as much as when my friend shouted testicles at you that one time. It wasn't testicles, it was
testicles.
cock.
It was anal sex that they shouted at me.
And for some reason, I feel like testicles is funnier.
Yeah. You said something along the lines of, you want to see how easy it is to make Gav blush, and she shouted anal sex, just completely misunderstanding the
The part, the easy part.
Yeah.
Yes.
oh well.
Oh well.
I believe I blushed. I believe I'm blushing now.
Anyway.
Thank you very much, Kat. I very much appreciate it. The blog, by the way, is on ko-fi.com, which is also where you can buy us a
Support the
coffee.
show.
Coincidence?
Methinks not.
Yeah. And it's also on voggle.co.uk. If you want to have a little read, that would be great.
Yes.
Then Scott writes, now you remember Scott. Scott is Mersey Tart.
What?
Well, he didn't write to us, but he said something on Blue Sky that I wanted to include.
Wait, he's on Blue Sky? Why am I not following him? Why is he not following
I don't know.
me?
Why don't you quickly do that, then not listen to what I'm saying?
I'm going to do both.
Excellent. Scott tweeted us on Blue Sky
Skeet.
to say, at Corrie Podcast, you can't hide behind a pseudonym. I know that was you in the Viz Letters page, and there's a little clip of a Viz letter which reads, with reference to the above letter, the same is true of paper coffee cups with plastic lids. You can just tell there is nothing in them, and when the actors take a big pretend drink and don't scald their mouths out, the illusion is completely shattered. From Sutton, Scotland in Hampshire. Thank you very much, Scott, for thinking of us. I appreciate it.
Oh, finally, I get to have my Mersey tart fix on a daily basis. I've missed him since I've been
Very
off the
much
Twitter.
always miss, and what is, I think my blog is a homage of sorts to the 5 things we learned
I did
about
about
Corrie.
Corrie this week. Yeah, I missed that so much.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
And finally, Cheeky writes, ultimately, this week the character that upset me the most was Daisy. Previously, she didn't want Kit to know that he was a father, and I can understand and make sense of that because all she wanted was Daniel. Having said that, I hated her response to Daniel when all he was trying to do is say, now that the worst of what happened to you with the accident is finished, we can work on rebuilding the relationship that we both want. And she took that completely the wrong way. And I find it to be absolutely stupid because it was really down to her being in shock from all the trauma that she dealt with in the last 48 hours. Lastly, David, is the proper way to deal with his debt to the gangsters another attempt at taking his own life? It's beyond stupid. Why would you risk upsetting your own children and your wife? Even more, this show has truly gone off the rails.
Yes.
Well, we'll get into that in some depth, I would imagine, in due course. But in the meantime, thank you very much to Cheeky, to Scott, to Kat, to Aria, to Fiona, Tara, Stephen and Debbie for writing in this week. We very much appreciate it. Feedback's always welcome. Send us your thoughts and I'll probably read them out. Get us at thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. So we love it when people write actual letters to us. Send us your proper mail to the Talk of the Street, PO Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. And please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only usually in the interest of brevity.
Yes.
And now we'll podcast for coffee.
Friend of the podcast.
Guess what?
We have a new friend of the podcast.
Oh, you knew?
I did.
Welcome aboard to Josephine O'Chingy, Canadian. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes.
Josephine writes, I've been watching Corrie since the 70s. Our babysitter watched, and I took an interest, but took a long break after the Richard Hillman affair, as I thought it was becoming too sensationalistic. Over the intervening years, I did check in occasionally, as being in rural Canada means it's often the only thing on. I started off again in earnest during COVID, as a new friend was into it and spoke of Tinker's dramatic weight loss. Who the heck is Tinker? I thought. So I checked it out and have been sadly hooked ever since. It really is a pile of shit. But it's our pile of shit. And I'm rewarded weekly with an hour or so of your hilarious banter and sprightly jingles. Auction talk is my favourite. One thing that would drive me away was if Kirk left the street. Love the actor Andrew Wyman and the royal family too. Well, thank you so much, Josephine, and thank you for signing up to be a friend of the podcast. We really appreciate it, don't we, Helen?
Yes.
Even if it's all just a big steaming pile of shit.
And who the hell is Tinker?
Who is Tinker?
Who is Tinker?
That's a more existential question, I think.
Yes.
We don't have time for that.
No.
But we do have time to thank Josephine very much for signing up to be a friend of the podcast.
Yes.
What are you drinking this week?
I stole one of Benny's
Oh, you're drinking root beer.
root beers because I'm out of grapefruit juice and cranberry juice, and you didn't get groceries today.
Oh, I didn't. I'm drinking my SodaStream Diet Ginger Ale, which I am loving.
You patted your pocket as if you thought your ginger ale was in your pocket.
I did. And it wasn't, because it's a 1 litre bottle. And my breasts aren't quite that big.
No, you have a ways to go.
Not yet, anyway. The Talk of the Street is and will always be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think our show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffee by going to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street. And you can also sign up to be a friend of the podcast through the same link, where for as little as $2 a month you can get a mention in the closing credits of each and every episode. And if Ko-Fi isn't your thing, we also have a Patreon site where you can also show us some love. Sign up to be a friend of the podcast there at patreon.com/The Talk of the Street. But remember, you can always support the podcast for free and get us in front of new listeners by liking, subscribing, rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. Whew.
Yes.
That was a lot of saying things.
Yes.
I'm going to take a quick drink.
Ooh.
Shall we dive in, my dear?
Else, please.
I swear that cowboy on your sweater's looking at me. Our first
Doesn't have
storyline...
eyeballs.
They're implied. Our first storyline tonight is knocking down the house. That was burning down the house, but now it's knocking down the house because...
No, I get it.
You get it?
I get it.
Is it better when I explain it?
No.
On Monday, David's all bruised again as he has his breakfast in Nina's rolls with Shona. She wants to make a move to the court for Max's sentencing, but he wants to eat his fucking breakfast and he sends her on ahead. God, was that this week?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Monday.
Fucking hell.
Monday.
Later, racist Kelly comes in and David is still sipping his tea. She figures out that David is going to dodge the sentencing, thinking his appearance won't help matters, and it's all his fault anyway. Racist Kelly reminds him that he's Max's dad, and this is his duty. Meanwhile, at the precinct, Andy receives instructions from Harvey's goon about David and his imminent demise. It seems that Andy is in debt to Harvey right enough.
Yes.
The hearing's just about to start when David finally arrives at court. Max calls David Dad just as the judge comes in. That's not a great sign, calling him Dad, much
No.
like David calling Gail Mum. The judge wastes no time, outlines what he's taken into consideration, but look, pal, you burnt down a house that could have killed loads of people and firefighters, and you meant it, and you're on licence, so I'm sending you down for 6.5 years.
Is that a weird way to say it, do you think? 6.5 years instead of doing it in months?
I think it's like when your kid reaches a certain age, you stop referring to them as being...
Certain months.
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't say that your kid's 60 months old when he's like, whatever that is, 5 years. 6.5 would be 78 months. Yeah, you're not going to say 78 months because nobody has any idea what that is.
Yeah, it sounds more dramatic though, doesn't it? 78 months.
I don't know, you
sounds
can
like
make
forever.
6.5 years sound pretty dramatic.
Or 6 years.
As I think I just proved.
6 years and 6 months.
6 years, 6 months, yeah. I don't know. I think we're giving this more thought than anyone involved in the show did.
Yeah, well, that's another.
That's true. That's true for
another
most
thing. Why would they write that? Why would they write 6.5 years instead of just 6 years? Does Patty Beaver have something in his contract that says, I will come back in exactly
6.5 years.
78 months?
Or 79 months? Just to give it a little bit of leeway. I don't know. Now that you've mentioned it, yes, it is weird.
Thank you.
Okay. It was long enough to make people gasp
Yes.
and for Max's hair to fall in front of his eyes a little bit more.
Right. That's a lot of time spent watching How I Met Your Mother.
Oof. Oh, God, the number of times you could get through it. You might even laugh.
Yeah?
Back at Sarah's, David is keen to blame Shona for all of this, but she reminds him that David stealing gangsters' money is what really kicks us all off.
Yes.
Fuck this, says David, and he goes to the pub where he gets drunk with Billy in the middle of the day.
And yet, let's not all forget, it's really Bethany's fault.
Everything's Bethany's fault.
Yes.
He tells Billy about Max, and Billy hopes that he's not going to do anything stupid. David rather suspects that he will. That was the resignation that, you know what, I probably am going to do something stupid.
Yes.
And sure enough, David goes to lock up the salon when Andy comes in brandishing a knife. Andy doesn't want to do
A
this.
very long knife with barbs.
But he has to. Harvey wants David dead. Dead like disco. Kill David. Collect on the life insurance. That's the plan.
Which is a stupid plan. How?
Well,
That's like if you kill David and his family gets the life insurance, you're like banking on them saying, sure, yes, we'll hand over the life insurance, but he's not going to get life insurance if he's...
Helen, it's worse than that. I wish I had a financial advice button. He took out the life insurance through his mortgage.
Right.
So if he dies, the life insurance
It's supposed
goes
to pay the
off the
mortgage.
mortgage.
Right, yeah.
So it's already spoken for.
Yeah.
This is all kinds of stupid.
Right. And it's so stupid because Andy says, because David's like, I don't have, why do you think I have life insurance? And Andy says, because you've got a mortgage. And it's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what you said, you know? The whole point of requiring life insurance when you have a mortgage is to pay your mortgage off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is all kinds of stupid.
Let us count the ways.
For the longest time, I'm like, why does Harvey want him dead? He's not going to be able to pay him if he's dead. And it's like the stupidest timeline, like the time we're living in right now.
Right. But it turns out that Andy isn't much of a killer.
He's a lover, not a fighter.
Oh, yeah. With those eyebrows? Absolutely.
With that baldy head?
And
Absolutely.
So now the pair, and I speak as someone with eyebrows.
And a baldy head.
Balding. And so now the pair of them will be in Harvey's sights, and he advises David to do a runner. Well, this whole thing was largely pointless, they agree. So after narrowly avoiding death, sort of, David sees Lily chatting with some of Harvey's goons on the street. He sends her home, then tells the goons that he'll kill them if they go near her again, and they just laugh at him.
They laugh. This man put another man in a coma. You should not laugh at him.
Yeah, that's all seeming like a very long time ago, though, isn't it?
It wasn't that long ago. We were watching the show when it happened.
Yeah. That's pretty long ago. Back at Sarah's, David takes this as yet another sign. While he's been getting drunk and nearly dying, Sean has been able to get Max moved to a prison in County Durham. And then David gets a
In
link.
Ireland.
No. That's not where County Durham is. Just because it's county something, that doesn't mean it's Irish.
It was a joke.
Oh, it suddenly transforms into a joke. Right. One of those jokes.
One of those jokes, yes.
Do you know that New York's not named after the town York?
It's named after the peppermint patty.
No, it's named after the
Duke of York.
Duke of York.
Yeah.
And did you know that New Mexico was called New Mexico before Mexico was called Mexico? I quite like that.
Do you know that New York used to be called New Amsterdam?
Yes, that's why there's an
Why
Amsterdam
they
Avenue.
changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way.
Oh, that rhymes. Then David gets a lengthy text from Harvey to let him know that he knows where Max has been moved to, and he has a murderer friend in there who
A serial killer, even.
will happily kill Max if he doesn't get his money.
Because Harvey apparently is like a bigger deal than Manchester. Even though Auntie Sharon is supposedly the one running this thing.
Well, I watched that again this week. I watched those episodes. And it seemed to me that she needed to get 10 grand to start up the firm again, whatever that meant.
Right.
And she went to Rita and asked Rita for 10 grand, and Rita
laughed.
Rita said, sure, and then didn't give her anything.
Right.
So maybe she isn't supposed to.
Right. But if the firm hasn't been started back up again, when is Harvey running?
Well, there is that. County Durham is up in the northeast of England, round about Newcastle. I'm sure that means a lot to you.
Yeah. It's not even Scotland. I feel like we've been sold a false bill of goods here.
Absolutely. So Harvey's got connections and is putting way too much time and effort into this.
Right.
Just
I'm sure he's got
get over your life.
I'm sure you've got better things to do in prison, Harvey.
Shona wants to go to the police, but David thinks that's a death sentence, as apparently Harvey has more contacts in the police than outside. Sure,
Really?
Shona tells him that he always finds a way for his family, but David is out of ideas. So he calls Andy and meets him in the salon again. He has a plan, and unbelievably, he arranges for Andy to run him down with a car at 2 o'clock on Rosamond Street tomorrow. Andy can't do knives, but seems capable of driving a car into someone fast enough to ensure death.
Sure.
This is just...
Sure he is.
I mean, what kind of plan is this?
I mean...
How hard would you need to run in a car if it was like a truck or a bus?
Right.
Andy, steal a bus.
Especially on a street that has a very limited amount of space for you to gain speed enough to hit someone hard enough to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, how many people have been murdered on the street from cars? I know lots of people have been hit by cars. Have any of them died?
Stephen.
Yeah, and that really shouldn't have happened either, because Peter was starting at a stopped position and then floored it into him. Yeah, he shouldn't have died either.
No, I think the only thing that we could be sure of is that David would be somewhat injured.
Maimed. Unless he did the whole thing where he runs him over again. But then again, that didn't even kill
Didn't kill
Leanne.
What David needed to be doing was pretending to bend over and tie his shoelaces.
On top of a balcony.
And then Andy could have driven and hit his head with the front of the car.
Yeah.
That would have probably done it.
Yeah, probably.
But you're running into... I mean, David's wee, but you're still running into his hips, aren't you? Or his
Very
bum.
much. Yeah.
Death,
Hard as steel.
death by bum. What a way to go.
Bum death. I'm sure it's a thing.
Brings a tear to the eye.
And the bum.
Oh. You've got to expect that at my age. On Wednesday. On Wednesday then. This is Big Wednesday. You excited?
I guess.
Here we go. On Wednesday we're so excited because Corrie's lost now. So we start with a flash forward to the events of the day, things that are going to happen that haven't happened yet.
Yes, an operation apparently.
Including David in the crash room in A&E as he monologues about the last few hours of his life and how he's definitely going to die today.
And it's all echoey and you see him from many different angles. And there's a bit of a blue tint. So not only is it lost, it's a bit of Ozark here as well.
Bit of Ozark. He hopes it's quick and painless. Well, maybe quick. As he counts down the hours, he plans to get hammered and sends a plat chat inviting everyone to the Rovers for a drink. He calls everyone biatches.
Yes.
But first he agrees
As one does with one's family.
Sure. You certainly
What's
do
up,
with,
biatches?
you certainly do with yours. But first, he agrees to take Lily for breakfast and Nina's rolls.
For pancakes.
Shona is worried about him worrying himself to death about Max. Later at Nick's flat, David is in a wee world of his own and he snaps out of it to tell Lily how much he loves her, which makes everyone suspicious. Normally that would make everyone go, "Oh,"
Aww.
but now it just makes people suspicious.
What?
As he counts more hours, he goes to the salon and gives Audrey a trim and asks her about her suicide attempt, and she thinks that he's worried about Max and tells him to tell the prison about his concerns. He fills up and tells her to put her head down so she doesn't see it. That was a very good moment, I felt.
Yes.
You need to lean your head forward so I can have a wee cry, basically.
Yes.
The moment passes when Max gives him a call, worried about Harvey already knowing about the transfer. David tells him not to worry about it. He's got it all in hand. He'll sort it. Trust him. But Max hangs up before David can tell him that he loves him.
Yep.
While David's inner monologue says poignant things.
Yes.
It's noon now.
In an echoey voice.
It's afternoon now, and David is in the Rovers getting wired into beer and chasers. He has an hour left. Meanwhile, Nick and Sarah have turned up for afternoon drinks. David is... Don't they have work? Doesn't Sarah especially have work?
Nick gets a soda water with lemon.
David is worried
In
that,
fairness.
that Shona hasn't shown up, but she's too busy at the prison wanting to speak to Max to get this Harvey shit sorted out once and for all, and she's going to name names. David tells her to leave it to him. He's sorting it, but Shona isn't interested. And not only does she hang up on him, she hides her phone in the glove compartment of the car that we forgot that she had.
Yes.
Just to be doubly sure.
Yes.
Although I suppose that she can't take it into the prison.
It's true.
He abandons the pub and he goes back to Sarah's to write a note to Shona using a pencil that had a cat's head on it as it's a razor. He leaves a message for Andy. But like that, only much bigger. It was a strange pencil to write a suicide note with.
Yeah, it's one of those details that you're like, what is the show trying to say with this?
You want to get a good fountain pen for that sort of thing, don't you?
One would think, yes.
He says he forgives everyone and hopes he'll be forgiven too one day. He leaves a message for Andy, who is in a car nearby getting wasted, telling him that he's turned on Lizzie's tramp tracker and tells him not to miss, and then has a wee laugh.
Ha 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 ha.
Later, Shona's worried about the voicemail that David left her, so calls him back, and she asks him how he sorted it, and he says it doesn't matter. She leaves the prison because Max was already on his way to County Durham. That was hilarious.
Right, yeah.
She was going all guns blazing and he's not even there.
Yeah.
He tells her it's too late, as David's inner monologue goes on about the importance of family.
In an echoey voice.
So, in the press release for this, it says that Daisy rushes out of the Rovers because of things that are happening in another storyline that we'll
Yes,
get to.
correct.
But she doesn't rush out. She kind of saunters out and she kind of wanders across the street where David is standing in the middle of it,
Right.
looking like a statue.
And all of a sudden she drops all her bags.
She drops all her bags.
And is like, oh dear. And then she's the one who's bent over and is probably going to die if
'Cause-
she gets hit while she's bent over.
Because Andy might not be able to stab anyone to death and honestly isn't all that good at knocking people over to death. But one thing he is good at is timekeeping.
Yes.
Because as soon as his clock hits 2,
Yes.
the
He's out of
car's
there.
on, it's floored, he's screeching round the corner, and as he's about to drive into the pair of them, David pushes Daisy out the way just as Shona arrives home and she sees the two of them getting hit by Andy's car, which then crashes a few feet down the street at the little archway.
Yes. Because let's all remember how very narrow and short the street is.
And cobbled.
Right. And full of other cars.
Although oddly fairly quiet today. So the car hits David, he goes flying over the roof, but not any more or less than Gary or Adam or Tinker or
Let's not forget, Adam cannot be killed.
the hundreds of other people that have been knocked down in Coronation
Think about
Street.
the 2 times that think about the time he got knocked down the stairs and got back up again, like almost immediately. And also that time that he was shoved off a balcony, hit his head on a concrete floor and lived.
No, he landed on a coffee wagon.
Yes. And then the floor.
I think the coffee wagon broke his fall a little bit, but he did require brain surgery after that.
Yeah.
So
Corrie version of brain surgery.
there's been a terrible accident.
Oh no!
Everyone rushes to the scene while Kit calls it in. Shona can't stop David's bleeding. Sarah calls everyone an ambulance. Everyone
You're an ambulance.
then goes to get Asha. Andy tries to make good his escape, but reaches the ginnel before Nick catches up with him. Nick's running in dress shoes and trousers
Yes, but he's got very long legs.
and threatens to call the cops.
Not as long as Kit's though.
Andy explains that David, see Nick running in shoes is just so funny. Andy explains
You
that,
expect him to run barefoot?
oh no,
on
the
cobbles?
training shoes. He's running in shiny
You expect-
brogues.
You expect him to, yeah, like the ones that you wore to go golfing that one time.
He wasn't running. Well, that was on grass. It's easy to run on grass. Andy explains that David asked for this to happen and plays the voicemail, so Nick hears it and lets him go. Not sure why. Back at the scene, Asha arrives and does her best to get David stable until the ambulances finally arrive. In the crash room, David dies,
Yay!
and the crash team do their best to bring him back.
He got knocked down, but he got back up again.
Always with that joke. Back at the flat,
It's perennial.
Sarah finds David's note, mostly because it wasn't well hidden or in an envelope. Nick and Audrey arrive to pick her up, and Audrey tells them about her conversation with David earlier, which was kind of weird.
Yes,
and
where
Sarah tells them about the note.
He asked her what it felt like to want to die, essentially.
Nick explains he's running with Andy and the life insurance money, and they all agree to keep this to themselves. At the hospital, Asha tells Shona that they've got David into surgery to fix an artery, but it's going to be all right, she promises.
All right.
Outside in the waiting room, Shona is up to high dough while Audrey keeps dropping hints that David might have planned this. Shona is certain that he wouldn't. He would never leave his family. And David's inner monologue is still going on about how humans are the only species who know that they're going to die, and he's still certain that he's going to die today, even though that looks very, very unlikely now.
Yeah.
I kind of hoped that we were going to get more of David's inner monologue as the days and weeks roll on, but
No, I guess not.
I guess not. That was a wee shame.
And also, I expected the will David die or not to be dragged out for at least a week.
No, I thought if he was going to die, he was going to die on Wednesday. And he was interviewed, I think, was it on This Morning or was it on Good Morning Britain? I can't remember which. Where he seemed to suggest that he was going to die.
Right.
And sure enough, he did.
Yeah.
But they brought him back again.
Yeah, which was ridiculous.
There was part of me that thought they might kill him off.
Right. Yeah.
And if
Me
that
too.
had happened...
Then there would only be one person on the sofa left on the show.
And also, I really didn't see much of a future for Coronation Street if they did kill him off.
Yeah. You kind of need David Platt on the show.
Don't you?
He's kind of the only thing keeping it going. Except for like Debbie, and the less said about that, the better.
Mm-hmm. But I thought it was possible. The way things are going and this all getting shook up and stuff
Yeah.
and characters leaving, I thought this would really be a major, major event in the history of the show for David Platt to be killed off just shy of his 25-year anniversary.
Yeah. Look at what they've done to poor Tinker, who's also been on the show forever since he was a wee boy.
Not quite as long as David, but
No, but like right before, what is this, like 15th anniversary or something? It was like a landmark year.
oh, maybe.
And they, like, so long, Coulson.
So he didn't die immediately. I thought if he's going to die, he's going to die immediately, or he's going to die when he flatlines.
Mm-hmm.
But that inner monologue, keeping on talking and keeping on talking about how he's sure he's going to die, seemed to convince the opposite was going to be true, and that it was going to be okay. And sure enough,
Yeah, he was okay far too soon for me, honestly. But, it is what it is.
because was Asha just saying that, and since when did she know? But was she just saying that he was going to be okay, or was he really okay? But it turned out he was really okay. So on Friday, David's surgery has gone well, and he's going to be fine, so his inner monologue can shut the fuck up now. He wakes up to Shona, Nick and Sarah, and Nick and Sarah pretend to be happy to see him awake while Shona goes off to update Lily, and that allows Nick and Sarah to get stuck into David for trying to kill himself.
Nick to get stuck into David. Sarah's like, okay, we know what you were doing.
She shows him the note.
Yeah, but even Sarah is looking at Nick like, what the fuck are you doing? When Nick starts like lambasting him, inappropriately in the hospital bed. He's just woken up. He's nearly died. He did die and they brought him back. He's just had to have his artery fixed. He can barely speak. And his brother's shouting at him for trying to kill himself out of desperation for his family. It's like, and it's really kind of unfair because they both like keep talking about you did this for the money. And it's like, well, no, he's doing this so that Max doesn't get murdered in prison more than anything. The money will help that. But if it was just the money and Max and Lily were safe, I don't think he'd opt for this option. It's really the whole, we can't move Max anywhere within the prison system where he'll be safe, that it feels like that's what pushed David over the edge.
I think it would feel more honourable if it was a better plan.
Well, there is that too.
And also, two brothers, and one brother's just kind of tried to arrange his own death. I can understand why Nick's angry at that.
He's just so high and mighty. You slept with your girlfriend's sister. I don't want to hear it from you.
Oh, don't be casting that up. So, Shona doesn't know, and they confirmed that. Nick is beside himself with the stupidity of it all, and he thinks that they should go to the police, but Sarah has a better idea. Let's lie through our teeth to everyone. No one needs to know nothing. Then Kit comes in to ask David a few questions about his best friend Andy driving the car that knocked him down, the same bloke that he tried to frame for the fire. Shona is now super suspicious, but plays along when David denies knowing anything, and when Kit leaves, Shona reveals that she's put two and two together. She's a smart cookie, is Shona.
She is.
And she
Even with that brain injury caused by being shot in the stomach.
Absolutely. She knows exactly what David was playing at here, and David confesses this was all his idea. He explains about the life insurance money and stuff, but Shona says that they would be nothing without him, and isn't chuffed at the idea of explaining to Lily what might have happened. Shona promises to get the money and end this. So, Shona nips off to another storyline for a few moments, and then comes back with news that she's got herself 40 grand, so that's Harvey paid off. So I got myself run over and died briefly for nothing, says David. Yep, you're a fanny, says Shona. And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yes. So what are we thinking?
Okay, so this was a big week. This was another big week.
Yeah.
After a few weeks after a big week, so it feels like we've had a couple of big stunt event things happening fairly recently.
Featuring the Platts.
I thought this was better than the fire.
Oh yeah.
I thought this was great television, but maybe not great Coronation Street.
Interesting.
I thought I liked it visually. I liked the writing, and they give David some really good lines, especially the inner monologue that I'm complaining about. But I thought it sounded... Do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of American Beauty. It reminded me of Lester Burnham saying, "Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Of course, there's one day that's not true. The day you die."
Right.
And it's all kind of in the feel a little bit of that sort of writing. And I quite liked it. I don't think it suits Coronation Street, though. And again, I don't think that the blue filter and the funny timeline and the weird opening that really was unnecessary to show things that are happening and to show the crash team bringing them back and all that. I don't know what we get as a viewer knowing that that's coming up, that we don't feel better when it just happens naturally.
In fairness, we don't necessarily know they're going to bring him back when we see the whole crash stuff. Yeah. I thought the writing was very good. I think Ian Kershaw did a very good job.
Yeah, I would agree.
Writing this episode. I felt like it was David's voice. It was a little, it was dramatic, but it was also a little bit snarky, and a little bit goofy, funny. I really liked the scene in the pub when David is having his last drink with his siblings. I thought that was really well done. It was very much... Because you know me, I always love the scenes when the three of them are together, especially with David and Sarah. Because they're so good as siblings, because they've been siblings on this show for so long.
Yes.
That it's so very natural. And so I enjoy when we get to see them together.
And I thought that scene with the three of them shot from behind the bar was great.
Yes, absolutely. I could have done without the special effects because that does not add anything to the story.
Always with the special effects.
The flashing forward doesn't really add much to the story. The blue filter does nothing to the story. The weird angles and the weird shots there in the beginning and the echoey voice. If it was just a straight inner monologue, without the echoiness and stuff, I feel like it would have been much better because it would be telling a story and it would be telling it straight, you know, without the slant, without a weird slant that doesn't do anything or anybody any favors. And I also really appreciated the scene in the street after they've been knocked down.
That scene that was shot nearly at ground level.
Yeah.
And there's the two bodies that are lying, and that's pretty much the only thing.
Right. And
I
then you
thought that
see...
It felt like a Western. It felt almost as much of a Western as the sweater that you're wearing.
And the way that, like, all of these people converged to help. For some reason, I guess 2 nurses were at Roy's Rolls eating lunch or something because they rush out. And,
They're from the medical centre, I think.
Is the medical centre that close? Mm-hmm. Why do we never see it from the outside?
We used to.
You never see the medical centre. We see the hospital from the outside. We never see the medical centre
Oh,
from the
don't
outside.
get me started.
And somebody remembers that Asha is an EMT and goes and gets Asha, and Kit is calling it in, and Asha comes and she, you know, she's very gentle with Shona and saying, hey, you've been doing a great job, but let me take over now and everything. And the moving back and forth between the 2 bodies and the 2 families and the 2 reactions here, I thought was very, very good. And it was just nice to see a lot of people on screen because we don't get a lot of people on screen very often anymore. So I really enjoyed that. There was so much to enjoy that it just made the unnecessary bits that much more unnecessary and so obviously unnecessary.
Yeah, I think where it differs though is when it does this sort of stuff, the big action things where it tries to be more than Coronation Street, or it tries to be more than what we expect Coronation Street to be. I don't know that it succeeds all that often. This felt like it succeeded. So it felt like it did Coronation Street being a movie or being a cop drama or a gangster drama or something. It felt like it was doing that better, and I could believe it as that. I just don't know that I could believe it as Coronation Street. And I think that's maybe a problem, but maybe less of a problem than it's been in the past. I did like Asha. We can argue over how long has she been in training? When did she decide to, and she suddenly, and now she's, I don't care. She comes on to these medical emergencies.
And she's great.
And she's superb.
Yeah.
And she's so calm and she's knowledgeable.
Right.
Like she was with Mason as she was reciting all these vitals to the A&E team. She's fitting into that role.
Very well.
Yeah, super well.
Very believable.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. The scene with her and Shona in the hospital as well, when none of the other family is there yet. It's just Shona. And Asha's like, would you like me to stay with you? And Shona's like, no, I'm sure you have better things to do.
She doesn't.
And
She was off duty.
Asha's like, no, I have time. I want to be here. And then Shona's like, oh, yes, please. You know, and yeah, she's really becoming a bit of the heart of the show. And I really like that for her because it's nice to see this competent young woman who's also very compassionate and very good at her job. Because was it last week or the week before where she was comforting Abi when...
Yeah, when Mason got stabbed, yeah.
No. Oh. When Abi saw the gurney outside the hospital and had a meltdown. That was last week, wasn't it? When Kev got his ball cut off.
Yes.
Yes.
To give it its medical term.
Yes. I've had bits cut off. I'm allowed to say that.
Tonsillectomy.
But yeah, so I mean, I think this is more Corrie. This is more the heart of Coronation Street than say the floating gun or Rob's escape or anything that Stephen did when he came back. Like
oh, really? It's as good as that? Because I liked the Stephen return.
Yeah, I thought most of it was stupid, as you'll recall, and I hate Stephen. I hate him to death. I'm glad that he's dead. It felt like this was far more in keeping with the heart of the show, with the purpose of the show, because it was very, very much the community coming together and the community helping and the community supporting these characters, which I thought was very nice.
Yeah, and the Friday episode, there are little mentions of what happened on Wednesday kind of scattered throughout, which always feels like it brings other characters into it as well. And yeah, we like it when this community soap has a sense of community, and it feels like that's been lacking for a while. And they did try and get some humour into it. That was kind of a criticism that I didn't really feel rang all that true. There were some smiles through it. Maybe not a huge amount, but there was some light-hearted moments in it.
The Platt siblings at the bar. That made me laugh in a good way.
Yeah, and they were giving it tight to Daniel.
Yeah.
That always brings a smile to these cheeks.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we'll talk about the other half of it in a bit, but let's move on to the other storylines that happened this week, and we'll start off with Sucks to be a Webster. On Monday, Abby's on the phone to Ronnie, being all friendly-like, which immediately gets Kev wound up, and he's further wound up when she tells him to make up with Tim. Meanwhile, at number 4, the exact same conversation is happening with Sally and Tim. To put an end to this, Sally's going to invite Kev, Abi, Debbie and Ronnie round for dinner tonight. Ugh, says Tim. And Sally goes to see Kev and Abi and invites him round, and Kev says he doesn't like dinner parties, but Abi's had enough of this shite and agrees for the pair of them. So, at the dinner party, Kev and Tim make up, sort of. When Debbie and Ronnie arrive, Tim jokes that it's a swingers party. Sally promises there'll be no swinging tonight, so Ronnie threatens to leave.
Yeah, that was funny.
After all of this, until the end of it, all of Sally's dinner party stuff was brilliant.
Yes, except, of course, for that one bit where it's like, all of this banter was created especially to make Kevin Webster very, very angry for no reason.
After dinner, Sally has a murder whodunit game for them all to play.
Ooh.
When Kev goes to help with the dishes, someone mentions him suiting a penny, and there are other numerous throwaway lines about Ronnie and Abi being an item based on the characters in the game that they're playing. And Kev, fuck it, he's had enough, and he accuses Ronnie and Abi of getting their whole off of each other. He calls Abi a slut, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
And storms off home.
Pretty much.
Abi is fucking furious when she gets home.
Yes.
Asking if Kev really thinks that she'd cheat on him under his nose when he has cancer. If the cap fits, says Kev. No, she says.
Fuck you, Kev.
No, she says, that's the cap that you wore when Sally was ill. And that
Pum.
Thank you. Someone said that, and that shuts him the fuck up.
It does.
And now he's all apologies and feeling sorry for himself, and oh God, does he love his Abi? And that's as far as we get with that
and
this week.
he's so very sorry that he doesn't know whether or not he can get it up anymore, because apparently Kev doesn't understand how penises work.
Oh, testicles. Kev,
they didn't cut off your penis, Kev. You're fine.
Kev,
I mean, you're not fine, but, you know.
Who thinks with his genitals so often,
yeah,
understands so very little.
Right.
Oh, the irony.
Oh.
I predicted in the aforementioned blog post last week that we know where this is going. Kev's going to accuse Abi and Ronnie of being a thing, which he did this week, so tick. They're going to deny it because there is nothing going on. That happened. And all this does is open the path for, at some point in the near future, for Abi and Ronnie to actually start having a thing.
That better not happen.
I don't know.
No, it's not going to happen.
This is the way this storyline goes.
Well, Debbie's alive.
This is the way this storyline goes. They suspect something's happening when it isn't, and then they suspect nothing's happening when it is. That's the nature of this storyline trope.
Yeah, I think far more highly of Ronnie than you do, obviously.
Yeah.
Because Ronnie loves his Debbie.
And Debbie is terrifying.
She is. And that's why we love her.
Remember that time that she was offering a square go to anybody that wanted it? She didn't care whose side you were on.
Man,
right.
I love her. I hope nothing bad ever happens to her, ever.
It's about high time that the show listened to fans about certain things.
It's true.
I'm not saying...
Not everything.
No, definitely not everything. The show should not just be an echo of the fandom, but when everyone feels the same way about something and it's hugely vocal about it.
Yeah, and writes petitions even.
Yeah, they should do something about it because
Right.
that shit ain't right.
Then again, we've all been complaining about how dark the show has gotten, and they seem to not be hearing us about that either.
No, so complain if you want to go darker.
Right.
Seems to be what they're doing.
Although, in fairness, not once have we seen another floating gun, so maybe.
All right, that's enough of the floating guns this week. We'll move on to our next storyline, Vallies off the Ken doll. This was this week. On Monday,
Yeah,
Ken is
very
back
brief.
home after his heart attack and one day in hospital.
Right, for an 85-year-old man.
He also looks like he had a wee haircut.
Yeah, he also looks like he trimmed down a wee bit as well.
Hospital will do that for you. Fizz and Tyrone visit to apologise for Cassie's behaviour and to offer to pay Ken back. Ken asks how Cassie is and seems upset to learn that Tyrone's kicked her out. Ken chews on this and tells Tracy that he's not going to press charges on Cassie, and she's furious about that.
As am I.
It's difficult to prove poisoning, says Ken.
Is it?
He seems to be speaking from a point of knowledge on this.
Is it, Ken? Because, they do have blood samples.
And it's stress that you can do without. Okay, we're getting to the nub of it. Tracy is appalled at how much of a soft touch Ken is. Meanwhile, Hope meets up with Cassie at Nina's Rolls, and she refuses to give up on her gran and says that Tyrone can either like it or lump it, and she takes Cassie back home, which does not impress Tyrone, but he does agree to go to the Rovers for a drink with her.
It's so funny because Hope's like, you didn't even really do anything that bad. And Cassie's kind of like, well,
Your moral compass.
you and I kind of have the same sort of moral compass, and unfortunately, we're both wrong.
Right.
It's like, it's not bad to poison an old man and steal his money. That's no big
He
thing.
didn't set fire to anything.
Or murder an unborn baby.
In the Rovers, Tyrone tells Cassie that Ken has dropped the charges, and Tyrone is angry enough with Cassie, but then Tracy and Mary and Brian come in, and they're all full of spite for her. Tyrone does nothing to intervene and says that he's ashamed of his mother. Sean bars Cassie, and she eventually slinks off.
And they're like, why are you drinking with her if you don't like her anymore? And poor Tyrone is like caught in the firing line, and he just did not done anything wrong this time.
He seemed to be hurt at the words that they were thrown at his mum. But then he also seemed to want to take sides and kind of sided with them.
Right, which is the right side. He seemed kind of hurt that they were lumping him in with her, not more than that these words might hurt his mother. Because let's remember, he doesn't really know her still.
He doesn't. He really doesn't. And he said as much the other week.
Yeah.
He thought,
Hello?
if you agree with us, make another noise. Betty!
Mary loves Dick.
Oh no, it's a ghost of Derek Pecora. You never saw that coming. I don't know. I felt that he was having a bit of sympathy for her. Who's definitely having sympathy for her is Ken. Old Kenbo.
Yeah, and Hope.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I necessarily want either one of those in my corner necessarily.
Yeah, it's a very strange,
Yes.
lonely corner probably.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Our next storyline is Fuck You, Coronation Street. On Monday, on the street, Brian is all a fluster when he runs into Julie again and ends up doing impressions of Jimmy Bond at her. And he's about to ask Julie out. See, he's no with Mary after all.
But he is with Mary.
When Mary intervenes, warning Brian that it's never a good idea to go back, like a dog to his own vomit.
Right.
On Friday, Julie has a meeting with a palliative care place today and wants to go on her own and reminds everyone how she's keeping this secret from Eileen, and she wants to keep it that way. So when Eileen comes in, she's disappointed that Julie has plans for that meeting in town, but without knowing what that meeting is. But they arrange to have lunch or whatever tomorrow, and we're reminded that Mary lives there as well. Later, Julie joins them all in the pub, and now Brian is very keen to get around in, where previously he was rather hesitant. Eileen has booked a table at speed dial for her and Julie, but Julie is too tired from her important meeting today. Eileen pretends to be okay about this and goes out with George and Todd instead, but reveals how worried she is that Julie seems to be avoiding her. Nah, says Todd,
Nah.
and George agrees. And that's as far as we get with that this week. Again, more things to like about this
Fuck you,
week.
Coronation Street.
Fuck you, Coronation Street. Oh, Julie going to a meeting and not wanting anyone to go with her is usually a sign that there's nothing wrong with her. But I don't think that's the case here.
No, yeah, because it's palliative care. It's not a meeting. It's palliative care, which means
This is going
things
to
are
suck.
not good.
Let's make it as
Yeah,
less sucky as possible.
right. Yeah, and it would be weird if George went with her.
True.
Here's my Undertaker.
Oh my God. I brought my Undertaker
I
with
brought
me.
my Undertaker with me just so he knows he gets a good idea of the timeline here.
Eesh. Yeah, that's not a good look. That's why George never gets invited to anything. I brought death with me. But here's another thing to love about these episodes. If you're looking for things to love,
Right.
Mary and Brian together again
Yes.
are good value.
Mary
That-
trying to get in on the whole James Bond thing and failing miserably.
that little batch of friends, kind of friends, but a frenemy as well.
Was
That's-
nice.
That's good value for money. That I
Yes.
enjoyed that, and arguably
And I
could have
enjoyed
done with some more of it.
the show reminding us that Mary lives there.
I totally forgot about that.
That Mary lives
What the
with,
fuck is Mary doing there at that time in the morning?
in her jammies. I
Right.
tell you what, you know who has nice jammies? That Eileen. Those were nice jammies.
I don't recall.
It was like a two-piece with the pants and the collared button down, and it was
Oh,
blue
classic.
with like white.
Classic.
Yeah, they looked very comfy and very classy.
Very nice.
Yes.
Our next storyline is Stabby Dylan on the inside. I don't care for this though. On Monday at the STC, a young Paul Mescal bullies Dylan about his GCSE
Kid
results
looks nothing like Paul
and
Mescal.
tells him again to stop sucking up to the teachers in here, even though Dylan wasn't sucking up to anybody.
No.
But after class, Daniel offers Dylan some one-on-one lessons.
Does he even hear himself speak?
I know.
Does he hear himself while these words are coming out of his mouth, working in a juvenile detention center?
And does Summer's face just wander across his memory when he remembers how that kind of went Shitsville really quickly by using phrases like one-on-one and
Yeah.
and stuff and extra tutoring and
Ugh.
but yeah, with boys that are locked up, yeah, this is even more creepy. But anyway, he offers these lessons to help Dylan settle in. But with a young Paul Mescal watching, Dylan knocks him back and says he just wants to serve his time in peace.
You say that just to bother me now, I know it.
I'm about to say it again. But it turns out that young Paul Mescal is testing Dylan to see if he'll do what he wants to keep him in his back pocket if he needs it. And honestly, I can't remember what the character's name is.
Brody.
Is it?
Yeah.
Like Jaws Brody?
Like Stelly and Benny's cousin Brody.
Was he in Jaws?
No. Like Adrian Brody.
Do you know he's still doing his acceptance speech
He really
nearly
is.
a week later?
He really is. He's the only one there. The custodians
Him-
have even left.
him and
They've
the
swept
orchestra.
them up.
On Friday, Dylan and the young Paul Mescal, a.k.a. Brody, are chatting about doing some jobs about the prison to earn some perks like smashing new white trainers. He's got a cushy postal job but warns Dylan against swiping anything. This young Paul Mescal bloke is super weird and seems to have a crush on Dylan, does he? When Dylan thinks that the young Paul Mescal is offering him drugs, he winds him up and then says that he'll keep Dylan right, and now Dylan owes him a couple of favours. I don't know where we're going with this.
I don't either.
I don't care where we're going with this. When Dylan's in the STC, out of sight, out of mind.
That would be preferable.
So preferable.
Yes. Because isn't he leaving the show as well? So shouldn't that have already been his leaving?
I've lost count. I think so.
He's in there. So why are we... I'm worried he's going to get raped. And I don't want that.
No, of course not.
I don't want that. I don't want any characters of any gender to be raped on the show ever again. Because we don't need that.
No, we can do without it. No, there is a very strange vibe with us, and it isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't pleasant.
It's uncomfortable.
And I'm not interested in Max in prison. I'm not interested in Dylan in the STC. I'm not interested in any other characters. Wasn't interested in Rob in prison.
No.
I don't want any. It's bad enough that we get hospital sets shoved down our throats. I don't want prison sets either.
No. Yeah. And I mean, we really don't need it.
It's called Coronation Street.
Right. Not Prison Street. Or Hospital Street. Or Police Station Street.
Oh, where's the police station in Police Station Street? It's on Police Station Street.
It's like streets that are called like Church Street. But there hasn't been a church there for like 50 years or something. Mm-hmm. Or like Oddfellows Street, and the Oddfellows Club is no longer there, sort of thing.
Oddfellows Street.
Yes.
Do you know, I never liked the sound of Locust Street. There's an awful lot of Locust Streets.
Yeah, probably for the locust trees, not for the screaming insects.
Ah. And New Mexico was called New Mexico before Mexico was called Mexico.
And it was part of New Mexico while it was called New Mexico. Before Mexico became Mexico.
Mexico was named after Mexico City. Anyway.
And Frankenstein is named after the doctor and not the monster.
And ants can build bridges.
And so can crows.
And I think that's a sign that we should move on to our next storyline. Brother, can you spare a kidney? On Friday.
Swain.
Swain. See, my problem is that I don't actually start by saying Swain. I start by saying Carla. But now,
Now say Carla.
But now that I've said Swain, I'm trying to change my sentence around on the fly.
Which you really can't, because it starts with Carla doing her face.
Carla's getting ready for work, much to Swain's chagrin.
Right, in the black robe. The infamous black robe.
The one of many black robes. From the black robe wardrobe.
Carla has a whole closet, just black robes.
You can have it in any colour you like, as long
as it's black.
Carla insists that she's fine to put in a few hours at work and will be staying out of Bobby's way. Bobby!
Phone!
But at work, Bobby comes in to welcome her back. Carla gives him the cold shoulder, but eventually suggests that they keep it professional and polite and civil. Later, Betsy's come across a news report about Rob. Seemingly, he's still on the run with internal bleeding following a comical fall after a kidney transplant, and there's been a sighting near Brighton.
How come this
Brighton isn't in Ireland either.
No, I know Brighton's not in Ireland, you fanny. How close is Brighton to Manchester, though?
Not at all.
Okay, so that makes what happens next kind of weird.
South Coast. South Coast.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, which is why what happens later is kind of weird.
The public are advised to stay well clear
of Brighton. Just don't go anywhere near there.
The public are advised to stay well clear. But when Carla gets home, her flat has been ransacked.
Whoa.
Cash, painkillers, they're all gone. Swain arrives and immediately suspects Rob. Carla, who had a kidney transplant and an infection last week, storms out to shout at Bobby for a bit, but he promises that he knows nothing about Rob's whereabouts. This has got nothing to do with him. Back home, Swain and Carla are tidying up when Betsy is looking like she's heading off to a party. Swain seems to stop her from going, what with Rob maybe in the area, and asks her to stay in because she's her mum and she loves her. But the next we see, Betsy's heading out anyway.
Yeah.
Going to the off license.
How did she walk out of the apartment without anybody noticing? Because Carla's there.
She needs to walk by them to get out the flat.
Right, yes. And I'm assuming Ryan's home by now.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
She's heading to the off license to get some body, and she seems to be followed by a hooded figure who's missing a kidney.
And it's wearing like a pink shirt.
I don't know that you
Stained
could
with his
tell.
blood.
Could you tell?
It looked pinkish.
He's been on the run for several days now.
Yes,
Must be quite smelly,
yes.
hungry,
Especially with that.
and dying from that infection that he's picked up from
Right, yes,
being on the
from-
run for so long.
And falling
With a-
out and having a leak in his where his kidney used to be. Because let's not forget, nature abhors a vacuum.
It does.
So
Yeah, it bores it.
yes, and there was a vacuum in his body that I'm assuming filled up with fluid and stuff. And he should have had like a little machine to wick away, or a little bag attached to his side to drain all of the fluid that is rushing into the part where his kidney used to be.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
No. But that's what should have happened.
It should have happened. So, as staggering as it may seem, it feels like we're moving into another big week next week
Yes.
with Rob's return.
Rob murdering people, maybe.
Left and right, yeah.
Mostly people who don't have a name, like Fish Guy. Fish Guy's getting murdered next week.
Or maybe it could.
And Kebab Guy. Please don't murder Kebab Guy. We'd be very
It
sad.
would be kind of funny if you accidentally killed David. David, who has this new lease of life now that Harvey's been paid off.
That's hilarious. Well,
Oh,
now
how
it's
you
Harvey.
laughed.
Yeah. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. God, there was something I wanted to say about this, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, yeah, I thought it was very delightful. We get to see Izzy this week. Izzy in her jumper. Her jumper, which is as colorful and story-led as my cardigan,
Yes.
only in blue with clouds and no sunset.
Now, I feel that we are skimming over the Swain and Carla storyline quite quickly this week. But if you want, I don't know, maybe an hour's worth of content about this, may I heartily recommend that you check out the Coronation Street podcast.
Why is Carla doing her makeup on the couch? That's what I want to know. Who does their makeup on the couch? Getting ready for work on the couch.
Don't they?
You get that bathrooms are made for.
Indeed.
I don't know. I don't wear makeup mostly, except when we're going out someplace fancy, or we're on vacation and I know I'll have my picture taken. Yeah.
Let's move on then to our penultimate storyline, Alya Law. On Friday, Yasmeen and Brian are off to see Evelyn at the Students' Union with Roy. Sadly, we don't get to see any of this.
No.
Meanwhile, Alya has been given a coercive control case where she's defending the abuser and she's having a moral crisis about it. Yasmeen suggests getting transferred to another case. So we don't get to see the meeting, like I said, with Evelyn, but back in Speed Dial, Yasmeen has been inspired to tell Roy that she's been offered a new job in that London.
London?
Which Roy doesn't say, and I think proves that
I don't think Roy would ever say London.
no one's ever going to say London anymore. But Coronation Street's Twitter account
Yes, they did.
posted it.
And so did their Instagram account.
Was it really?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. And Georgia replied to it saying it's pronounced London.
Nice.
Thank you, Georgia.
So she's going to be working with a charity for modern slavery, presumably against it. It's a major life change. Roy tells her to go for it. Because she's so brave after everything that happened with Tim's
Right,
dad.
yes. And, she's like, it's so inspiring to see Evelyn, who's got this fire in her belly to do something. And she's like, don't you miss having a fire in your belly? And Roy's like, I've never had a fire in my belly for anything my entire life. My life is trains and bats and making coffee.
He's had fire in his belly before, I'm sure. So meanwhile, Alya has taken her grand's advice and her company have told her to like it or lump it. So she chose to lump it. And now they want to bill her for all that training they put her through. Alya complains to Adam and he thinks that she made the right decision, even if she now is broke and unemployed. She blames Tim's dad for all this and then asks Adam for a job working with him. No, fucking way, he says. He wants to keep their private and work lives separate. Alya's hurt but agrees. She goes and tells Yasmeen her news, but Yasmeen has better news and tells her about that London thing that had never been mentioned before today. Alya thinks this is a great idea, even if it means selling the restaurant and the house. It's time to put the old girls on the market, and the house and the restaurant. That's as far as we get with that.
Yeah, so
A rushed exit.
this is Yasmeen's leaving story. Basically, Evelyn's leaving story.
Yes. But for keeps.
Only swap university for London and a vague charity that she has worked for that she has been associated with in the past, and that she just put feelers out, and they said, yeah, sure, we'll give you a job. So she said, I am going to leave my entire business. Mm-hmm. This business that I have grown with my family, who are all basically gone. Although she'll be closer to Zidane in London.
She says that, yeah.
Yes. But still, it's the weirdest leaving story for someone who actually owns a business on the street. Because what is going to happen to Speed Doll now?
Well, presumably someone else is going to buy in.
Buy her shares. But who else has shares? It's Zidane and Alya, right? And Zidane is gone. And Alya's, well, she's not really a lawyer now.
No,
She's not even getting any training.
The lawyer era of Alya's life has now passed.
Although it sounds like she still kind of wants to be a lawyer because she wants to work with Adam. And Adam's like, no, because that would be too sexy.
Far too sexy.
Oh, Adam.
She's like, well, we keep our hands off each other. But the one time that they were working together and going out, they didn't because they got caught. Remember?
Oh, you know what all of this just does for me?
What?
Reminds me that we haven't seen Dee Dee in months.
Yes, she's now 95 months pregnant.
She's had that baby. That baby's going to college.
That baby is now tracking down Ed.
The only Bailey we have seen for weeks is Ronnie.
Oh, we've seen Ronnie's arms though.
Well, we've seen all of Ronnie. Well, not all of
I
Ronnie.
like to separate the arms.
Haven't seen all of Ronnie. We haven't even really seen his arms. He's been dressed fully. He hasn't even done like the whole like roll the sleeves up halfway, which, makes most women hot under the collar.
I have no issues whatsoever with Shelley King wanting to go and do different things.
No.
But in terms of storyline,
Yeah.
aside from being a business owner, Yasmeen is also 72 years old this year.
Right. Yeah. But, Evelyn went back to college, so.
Yeah. What's this work that you're going to do with this charity? You're going to...
Right. What exactly are you skilled at to work with a modern slavery charity? I suppose she could make speeches about coercive control. And I guess, she's good with money. Maybe she'll work in their financial department or something.
Well, as far as we know, on Coronation Street, she ran Jamila House.
Right, which was like just an open space for
A wee community centre.
community
sort of thing.
center, yeah.
And then she worked in Roy's Rolls for like 6 months a year or something.
Right.
And then she started Speed Dial.
Right.
So none of this is screaming charitable organisation.
Well, a community center is kind of a charitable
I guess
organization.
maybe.
It would be a 501(c) here in America. It sounds like Mr. Pecora agrees with me.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to our final storyline tonight. Who the Daddy? On Monday, it's Jenny's birthday and she's celebrating by complaining about Daisy to Rita. Rita's in it this week.
Yay, Rita!
And then Glenda. Glenda's in it this week.
Yay, Glenda! And Glenda and Daisy are color coordinated.
Glenda comes in with a dirty card for Jenny's birthday.
Yes, with a big long schlong in it.
Pictures of cocks all over it.
Yes.
Daisy has gotten her fuck all. Through the back, Daisy has some legal documents for Jenny to sign, which puts Jenny in a very bad mood for her birthday. Secretly, Glenda sends Daisy out to buy Jenny something for her fucking birthday. Then Daniel comes in, and Jenny warns him that Daisy isn't to be trusted and to watch himself. Daniel says there are no secrets between them. What, just like the time she was getting her hole off Orion? Asks Jenny. Daniel snaps that it's only fair that his name is on the deed when it's Bertie's money that's bailing everyone out.
Yeah, so fuck off, Jenny. All the way off.
So when Daisy comes back, she's spoken to Daniel already and is in a foul mood, wanting to know why Jenny thinks that Bertie should buy her a pub for free.
Right?
Jenny thinks this is punishment for blabbing. Daisy says that all she cares about is Daniel, Bertie, and the baby. What, that baby that isn't even Daniel's, says Jenny, and this just about does it for Daisy. Jenny spends the rest of her birthday getting pished and ends up through the back of the Rovers with Kit, trying to get her hole off of him, and she blurts out that the baby's probably his, but stops short of actually saying that.
Right.
When Kit refuses to shag her, and she kicks him out.
Yes. When she realizes what she almost said.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Kit didn't shag her.
I'm super surprised. Kit
'Cause-
would totally have had a bit of that.
Kit will shag anything.
A hole in the ground.
Only if it's a very deep hole.
Oh, you think?
Well, he's very tall.
I suppose. On Wednesday, in Nina's rolls, Daisy runs into Jenny and the two of them are awkward with each other until Jenny rushes out, probably hungover. And probably remembering what she said last night.
Yes.
Other Rovers later, Kit comes in looking for Daisy, but she's out in the town. Daniel comes in and Kit asks him if he ever saw any proof that he was Daisy's baby daddy. When Daniel says no, Kit advises him to get some proof. Daniel sits in the booth and broods. Daisy finally gets to the Rovers and Daniel pounces, demanding to know if the baby's his. He says Kit knows something. Kit says, I only know what Jenny told me. Which daggers to Jenny for that.
Seriously?
Daniel tells her to swear on the baby's life that it's his, and Daisy can't do it. And instead, they all argue about whose fault all of this is. It's Daisy's.
Yes.
So once again, in the press release, it says that Daisy rushes out of the pub, but she doesn't. She just saunters across the street where David is standing like a statue and she drops her bags. David pushes her
All
out.
three of them. You know, it's not like just one bag falls out of one hand. All three of them fall out of both hands.
Good old timekeeping Andy puts his foot down at 2 o'clock, drives round the corner, is about to hit them, and David pushes Daisy out the way. Just as Shona arrives and sees the two of them getting hit by Andy's car, everyone rushes to the scene while Kit calls it in. Daniel is only concerned about the baby as he rushes over to Daisy and screams on someone to call an ambulance.
Ambulance!
So at the hospital, Daisy's got a scan and it seems that the baby's heartbeat is still strong. Well, thank goodness for that. Jenny tries to comfort her, but Daisy would appreciate it if she stayed all the way the fuck out of this.
Right?
Daniel goes to tell Kit that the baby is okay and his. Daisy doesn't want that, and she says that she wants the baby to be Daniel's. But Daniel leaves and tells Kit back at the Rovers anyway.
Yeah.
What a shitbag.
Well, after they wheel poor Daisy out to get her arm fixed. First of all, fuck Jenny all the way off, because Daisy is really concerned and says, well, shouldn't we do more testing? Are you 100% sure the baby's fine? And Jenny's like, oh, no, your baby's fine. It's fine. Go. You know, and is like really gaslighting poor Daisy because she realizes that she's the reason why Daisy was in the street. And it's just such a terrible thing to say to someone. Oh, no, you're fine. Just go. And then as soon as the door closes, she says to Daniel, no, we really should tell Kit and you go do it. So fuck Jenny and Daniel for this particular part of this whole thing.
I'll take that. Kit gives the impression that he doesn't care, which makes Daniel get all self-righteous. Both of them help themselves to free Bruise, though, while everyone else is away. So later, Daniel gets back to the hospital, but is taken away by a nurse immediately. Daniel earlier has been named next of kin by Daisy, and he learns that it's looking pretty shitty for the baby, and that Daisy's probably already lost it because she's got a bleed. Daniel tells Jenny, and they agree not to tell Daisy pending a proper scan tomorrow. On Friday, Shona asks about Daisy and the baby, and Daniel says both are fine. Jenny's confused because she's already forgotten the end of the last episode. Daniel explains it all again, but then gets a notification that the money has finally been transferred into Daisy's account. At this, Daisy wakes, and from Jenny's face she can tell that something's wrong. Daniel explains about the bleeds and how they want to check her out again, and Daisy doesn't think any of this is right because yesterday they said everything was fine. But later, the doctor confirms the worst, that Daisy has lost the baby, and things are going to get a little bit uncomfortable and nasty for here on in, and they're going to need to speed up the process of Daisy's body flushing the dead baby out.
That's
Ugh.
a bad way to put it.
After that, though, she'll be good to go home tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
Daisy is broken. In another storyline, Audrey is visiting David and explains all about the drama with Daisy stealing the money and being caught and all that stuff, which surprises Shona quite a bit. Back at the Rovers, Kit quizzes Jenny about Daisy and the baby, and Jenny, having learned nothing from the previous few days, tells him what's happened. Back at the hospital, Shona bursts into Daisy's room and says, look, I really don't want to do this. But
And bursts into the room, and Daniel's like, really, this may not be the time. And Daisy says, no, really, this isn't the time. And Shona does not stop. Shona does not think. She just blurts.
Yep. And I quite liked her for this.
Ah,
She says, look, I'm
dead
sorry.
baby.
Yeah.
Dead baby.
Look, I'm sorry about this. I know this isn't a great time, but my family's getting threatened by gangsters, and I know that this isn't really your problem, but I can make it your problem unless you give me 40 grand. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell them about you and the hit and run. Oh, and Daniel drink driving, which everyone seems to forget.
Except for Shona.
Jenny brings in a care package. No one cares. When Jenny and Shona have left, Daisy agrees to pay off Shona, and this is the best for the two of them, she says, and for Bertie.
Yeah, it'll keep Daniel out of prison.
She'll
Which, boo!
She'll pay Shona off and give the rest back to Bertie. And she talks about how all this is riddled with lies and deceit, and how she's got what she deserved.
And poor Carla will still not be paid off.
But at least 40 grand off Bertie's money wipes the slate clean. Daniel is surprisingly chill about all of this. Daisy takes her evacuation meds in a pretty teary scene, and then Kit comes in to offer his condolences. Daisy said he would have been a good dad. Kit smiles and leaves. And then Daniel comes in and suggests that they put all of this behind them now and think of the future, but that goes down like a lead balloon, and Daisy says that she'll never be able to put her dead baby behind her just because it will make things simpler for Daniel. And that's how we end this week's episodes.
Yeah. Daisy is grieving and still in shock from everything that has happened. I think we should give Daisy a little bit of grace for overreacting to what Daniel is saying, because I don't think that's what Daniel is saying. I'm giving him a little bit of credit here that that's not what he is saying.
No.
About, leaving the dead baby behind.
But we all seem to be ignoring
that he's
everything that's happened, basically.
Right. That he's like, well, that's that, but we love each other, so we're moving on. And
yeah, you're going to let me raise another man's baby. And
Bethany?
Exactly. You should be like jogging down the M6 by now, trying to make amends there. And I don't know about the morality of telling a guy that a baby is yours so that he will pay off the debt.
But that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Jenny told Daniel that the baby was his.
But Daisy allows this to happen.
But Daisy was going to tell him the truth.
Well, Gona is doing absolutely nothing because she didn't.
No, but Daisy was going to tell him the truth, and Jenny agreed that that was the right thing to do. And then Daniel is the one who had the idea that he was going to pay off the pub.
And Daisy let him.
And Jenny, but he told it to Jenny, and Jenny said to Daisy, don't tell him the truth because he's going to pay off the pub. And then something else happened because initially Daisy was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But then she decided that she was, I think because Daniel said he loved her again, which is not a great reason.
No.
But let's all remember.
So how is that contradicting what I'm saying then? Because at the end of the day, that's what's happening. She's accepting this money
But,
and saying that the baby's his when it isn't.
yeah, but she didn't say that.
But she doesn't not say it.
Right.
She's corrected nobody.
But
she's allowed Daniel to think that the baby's his, and as a way to clean the slate, she's allowing him to pay off Carla. She's allowing that to happen. She could stop that at any point and say, this isn't right, stop doing it, the baby's not yours, and she chooses not to do that.
Well, she keeps saying that she's going to do
Oh,
that.
well, she's going to. But she doesn't.
But she doesn't because she loves Daniel for some reason.
Right. So...
But really, the villain here is Jenny. Because Jenny is the one who told Daniel in the first place, and Jenny was the one who persuaded Daisy not to tell Daniel because he was going to pay off the pub. And then it was Jenny who threw a wrench in all of this when Daisy said, well, we're going to put Daniel's name above the door instead of yours and, put the deeds in his name. And that's when Jenny's like, well, fuck this. I'm going to fuck up everybody's plans and tell Kit the truth.
Jenny being a villain here doesn't prevent Daisy from also being a villain here.
I feel like Daisy is less of a villain.
Jenny going along with Daisy's plan to steal the money in the first place.
Well, that is true.
Is kind of the same as Daisy going along with Jenny's plan for getting the debt paid off.
Right.
But what I'm really questioning is the morality of Daisy then using that money that she really should be giving back to Daniel, all of it. She's deciding to use the 40 grand of it to keep Shona quiet.
Right, to keep Daniel out of prison.
Well, Shona's not mentioned anything about Daniel because Shona doesn't know. Shona doesn't know about Daniel's drink driving. All she knows is that Daisy was the hit and run driver. That's all that Shona knows. None of this touches Daniel. Daniel gets away with this unless Daisy throws him under the bus.
But it will touch Daniel eventually because there's footage of him behind the wheel as well, wasn't there?
No.
I'm pretty sure there was.
No. There's a wee boy here that is 40 grand worse off through no fault of his own.
But you know what? He's a wee boy. He doesn't care. And Daniel doesn't say. 1 second does he say.
No, he doesn't.
Well, wait a minute.
I say that he's surprisingly cool about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he's surprisingly cool about wanting to still be with Daisy after all this stuff has happened.
Well, let's be honest, he's not very picky. And
he's exceptionally picky. He back and forth between the two of them all the time.
Right, yeah, but they aren't picky either. Because they keep picking Daniel.
It's just, I don't know. I had a huge problem with the way that this played out. And Daniel seemed to be very, very angry up until the moment that Daisy got run over.
Right.
Which I can guess, getting run over tends to shift focus away from the thing that you were angry at.
And then, of course, dead baby.
For it still not to be an issue for him.
Well, because he thinks he and Daisy are going to be together now. Regardless.
Yeah, he's had that thought in his head for all of 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's Daniel.
After being engaged to Bethany.
Right. But then let's not forget how quickly
all these people are shits.
How quickly he dove into Bethany after dumping Daisy. It was very quick. It's like as soon as Bethany showed back up into town, Daniel was immediately in her pants. Very quickly.
He ran back to Bethany seconds after getting his hold with Daisy that might have knocked her up.
Right, yes. And let's not forget, Sinead was not even dead yet when he started sticking his tongue down Bethany's throat. Why do women love this man?
It seems that we've just been shouting about how shitty all of these people are.
But mostly Daniel.
I think all of them have really got issues. But anyway.
That's done now. Yet another dead baby.
And yet another character who is on the outs. I mean, I've had my issues with Daisy's character on and off, and I've gone through phases of really not liking her and then really loving her and then really not liking her again. And I don't know how I'm exactly feeling about her. I'm kind of, she's a damaged character, I guess, and she's maybe ambivalent at best about her. But one thing
I kind of like her loose morals.
One thing that I do
Keeps things interesting.
will miss is Charlotte Jordan plays her incredibly well.
Yes.
And there were so many scenes in this, particularly when she's talking about the baby and losing the baby, that were just heartbreaking. The scene with her sitting, waiting to take or pluck up the courage to take the pill that will definitely bring the end to everything, was really heartbreaking.
Yes, very much so. I thought that was very well done.
So that I will miss. The character, you need characters like this. And
yes.
like I keep on saying, as much as I don't like Daniel, I would have nothing to focus my negative energy on if he wasn't in it. You need something that rubs you up the wrong way.
Yeah.
It would be no fun if you liked all the characters on the show.
Surprisingly, you'll be surprised to find he is not my nominee for Boring Moment of the Week this week.
Oh, well, I'm going to be fascinated to find out who is.
Yes.
But yeah, I agree. Jenny had suddenly just turned heel.
Yeah.
And a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And was kind of annoying up until the revelation of the when she told Daniel that it was his. There was really no reason for her to be doing any of that.
Nope.
And all this...
None of this would have happened.
And all this seems to have kind of flourished off the back of that. So yeah, while everything, no doubt, is Bethany's fault, an awful lot of it is Jenny's fault as well.
Yes. And she doesn't even seem to accept that, because not once did she apologize to Daisy for blabbing and stuff, which made her, leave the pub into the street.
No, and the only thing that Daisy said to her was, I would really appreciate you not being here.
Yeah.
Where she's got every right to be absolutely fucking furious with her.
Right, yeah. And Jenny seems kind of put out by this. And it's like, do you have no self-awareness, woman?
Yeah. She brought a care package. Oh well.
Oh, well.
That was the week that was Coronation Street then, I guess.
Was it?
Yeah. Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
I feel like it's the aftermath of the accident when all these people rush in to help.
The little community scenes after the
Yes.
hit and run.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there were separate moments of, let's say, brilliance in the Daisy scenes that we've talked about.
Yes.
There was good scenes with David and his siblings, and
Yeah.
I really loved the David and Audrey scene.
Yes.
But-
Oh, God, that was a really great scene with him trimming her hair and them just bonding over David weirdly asking her how she felt when she tried to kill herself.
Yeah, it was such a lovely scene of a grandson offering to cut his grand's hair.
Yes.
And then talk about suicide.
Yes.
Another hallmark moment in the Platt family history. But no, I think the aftermath of the crash was probably the pick of the bunch. So that is our
Moment of the week.
Moment of the week.
Now give us the non-Daniel boring moment of the week, please, Helen.
Fizz being mad that she didn't get invited to the dinner party. Why do you fucking care, Fizz? You don't.
Because you'd have to take Tyrone. And Tyrone's going to get on all right with the guys.
Right. He's not going to be very good at the murder mystery game, though.
No.
He's going to say something stupid.
Or eating with cutlery. But yeah, why was Fizz even bothered about that?
I don't know.
That's our
Boring moment of the week.
She's so funny, though, because she's like, why do we not ever get invited anywhere? And it's like, your daughter's a pyromaniac and your mother-in-law tried to murder an old man.
yeah. But shock of the week, you don't even like Sally. What? Somebody doesn't like Sally?
Well,
The neighbourhood watch woman who doesn't have the sticker in her window because she likes the vista. I'm shocked. Shocked, I tells
say.
you.
Yay!
All right, we're on to
our dog scene.
non-scientific Twitter poll. This is where I go onto the much maligned social media platform and ask what people thought of this week's episodes, giving them a choice of yay, meh, or zzz. And the results were as follows this week. Zzz was 35.8%, meh was 36.8%, and yay was 27.4%. So a fairly middling to negative response to this week's episodes. And of course, we don't let these results influence our decisions, Helen. So tell me, what was your score out of 10 this week?
Yeah, I thought it was, all things considered, a pretty good week, despite, the whole ridiculousness of the life insurance policy thing.
Yeah.
And the dumb special effects, which were unnecessary, and the blue filter. I'm going to say 7.
Really?
Yeah.
As high as 7?
Yeah.
I think if you thought about it long enough, you could talk yourself down to a 4.
I think I could talk myself down to like a 5.5. I don't think I would go as low as 4. I thought it was a pretty good week.
I thought it was a pretty good week as well. And I think with the suspension of disbelief notwithstanding, or the lack thereof, I think I'm more inclined towards a 6 or so.
Uh-huh.
But I easily could, if I thought about it long enough, I could severely disagree with myself and knock that down a couple of points.
Don't get me wrong. I am tired of the dark storylines.
And the Harveys and the goons.
Because the world is fucking dark enough as it is without me watching it on a soap opera.
Yeah.
I need some bright, happy, normal storylines from Coronation Street, please. But I really felt, especially the writing was very good this week.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Certainly a better week.
Yes. Tone down the special effects and you might actually get up to a 9. And remove ridiculous things like, we're going to use a life insurance to pay off your debt to Harvey.
Let's wrap this one up then. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast.
Woo-hoo!
Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Laurie Anna, Tina, Stephen, Leah, Tara J, Fiona B, Canadian Jennifer, and Josephine Otinji, Canadian. Thank you so much, folks, for being our wonderful friends of the podcast. We very much appreciate it.
Yes.
If you've ever... write in to tell us about it. We're the talk of the street at gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky, or you can reach us the old-fashioned way, the talk of the street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827. You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street, or patreon.com/the talk of the street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
Adrian Brody's an asshole.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode, and we will be back next week with more
I'll talk of the street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.